Welcome to the St. Thomas Project, Devotions for Doubters, brought to you by the Alyosha Society, where we are pursuing truth and beauty and goodness through great literature. Most of what we do here at the Alyosha Society is indeed focused on works of literature. So for a detailed explanation of the focus of this particular series, check out the video, St. Thomas Project, Devotions for Doubters #1 preface, and I explain it all there because this is a bit different than our general focus on literature. In short, the St. Thomas Project, I'm addressing folks who wrestle with doubting their faith. Also, I pointed this out before. You'll see that I'll be wearing green in all of the videos in this series. It's the liturgical color for hope, and it points to growth. And my hope and my prayer with these videos is that God will give you hope and that he'll grow your faith, no matter where you happen to be in your journey at this point. So let's go to slide land. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. Before we do that, the pattern we want to establish here is this. I'm going to show you some scripture passages. Then you pause me, read the scripture passages, then unpause me, and then continue on, because the scripture passages are important, and I think getting more out of the devotional. Got it. All right, let's head there now. St. Thomas Project, Devotions for Doubters. Keys to get myself out of the way here. There we go. Sorry. Let's see. I'm going to stick myself right here. So this is number 3. It's the third video. Again, I made a preface video. Then in the second video, I gave my personal story, my personal testimony. And that video will explain a whole lot of why I would do a video series like this. So this is number 3. It's called A Defense of Doubting Thomas. So what you want to do now is pause me and read John chapter 20, 24 to 31 down there, Acts chapter 17, 10 to 15, and then James chapter 1, read the first 5 verses. Go ahead and pause me. Was that good? Did it look like a fake pause? Did it seem like the internet went? Okay. I'm assuming you've done that. So what we shall do now is go back over to Chatland. Thanks for working with me here. Okay, so you've read those passages, and now let's, what could I possibly mean when I say a defense of doubting Thomas? So I felt like, first of all, the project is named the St. Thomas Project. Right off the bat, I know I have to deal with Thomas. I'm not sure that we, and I say we, I mean just the Western culture and the church, that we've got it right by labeling him doubting Thomas. Yeah, I know. I'm calling the devotional St. Thomas Project Devotion for Doubters, but I'm not convinced that Thomas's doubts were wrong. He's gone down in history as the ultimate doubter, and rarely, if ever, are his doubts considered a good thing, generally when people talk about him. So I want to suggest a positive side to doubting Thomas. All right, just hear me out. So a couple things to consider. First of all, Thomas was not with the other disciples when they saw the risen Jesus. So you could suggest that based on all the Old Testament prophecies, or maybe he should have immediately believed that Jesus was raised from the dead. But, that'd be holding him to a much higher standard than all the other disciples. He was simply asking questions. All right. Second, if Jesus wanted to hold Thomas to the standard of believing in him without any proof, then why did he bother to reveal his wounds to him? Thomas asked for evidence and Jesus gave it to him. If Jesus considered Thomas's unbelief sinful, it seems like he would have concealed, put his hands behind his back. He would have concealed the proof and forced Thomas to make a choice. Instead, he invited Thomas to, touch him and observe his pierced hands. So, what about the apparent rebuke of Jesus? Verse 29 says, because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. Again, verse 29 in John 20. Now, here's what I believe. Even if this is a rebuke, it doesn't appear to be a harsh one. Thomas was merely asking to have the same benefit that the other disciples had, namely seeing the resurrected Jesus. So I think Jesus's words here could refer to a couple of things. First, John says that he's writing his gospel so that his audience, and this is a quote from verse 31, may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. John may be including these words of Jesus in an effort to encourage belief among those to whom he's writing, those who didn't have the benefit of seeing the resurrected Jesus, which would have been a lot of people. Second, one interpretation of these words goes something like this. Blessed are you, Thomas, for having the benefit of seeing the proof and believing in me. And blessed are those to whom you will be ministering in far off lands who will never have such a benefit. You may know the story, but Thomas eventually took his experience of the living Jesus to far off lands. Okay, to this day, Christians in India trace the existence of their church all the way back to the 1st century when Thomas settled in Kerala and established a church there. So the point is that doubts about the faith are not necessarily wrong or sinful. Perhaps they can be, but not always. So check out the other reading, one of the other scripture passages I gave you, Acts chapter 17, 10 to 15. What did the Bereans do? The Bereans searched the scriptures daily to find out whether these things were so. Verse 11. They did not believe until they took time to investigate the claims that were being made. They exhibited what you might call a healthy skepticism and then believed after gathering the facts. Now, at the end of each devotional, I want to give you what I'm calling takeaways, sort of applications, I guess. So here are my takeaways. A certain kind of unbelief is condemned in Scripture. And I'm going to do a meditation on Hebrews chapter 4 later. So there will be a video on that. It's good to ask valid questions to better know the truth. Jesus loved Thomas in his questioning, and he guided Thomas to the truth. Don't beat yourself up because you're wrestling with these doubts. Rather, keep on brawling and keep asking for true faith. Reread James chapter 1, verse 5. There you have it. Questions or comments? I'd love to hear from you. Email me, Bruce@AlyoshaSociety.com.